We're going to start with our next session here. We've got some really wonderful speakers, Susan and Lindy from TriHealth. Lindy, of course, is Miss Liberty in this picture. Susan is the scary ghost. I think you guys probably had to dig pretty deep for those pictures, so thank you for committing to that. I will tell you that we talk about TriHealth all the time. It is one of our touchstone case studies for a number of reasons. One is because they've had some pretty audacious goals, but the other thing is that they have been really good at getting engagement from 100% of your workforce, which almost nobody else can say, but they've got a really good way of doing it, and it involves metrics, it involves investing in the employees to teach them how to do things better, and well, I don't need to introduce them anymore. Why don't you come up and tell us all about it? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to tell our story. Very excited to be here. We've been with IdeaScale about 3 years and have tried to get here every year and finally made it. So thrilled to be here. So again, my name is Susan Holzmacher. A little bit about my background. I have about 20 years in healthcare. I'm a registered nurse, so I've done nursing, but I also have a couple business degrees, so I've done data analytics, market research. So that's 20 years. 5 years I was a computer operations manager, but my most difficult job was for 10 years when I stayed home with my children. That was most rewarding, but very difficult too. So we have about 30 minutes to tell our story, and I hope that something we say resonates with you and something sparks and you take something back to your organization and implement it. So that's our goal. And this is my awesome colleague, Lindy Koterba.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Lindy Koterba. I've been with TriHealth for over 17 years. The past 2 of those have been with Innovation. My background is in sports medicine, health and wellness. I worked for many years at our medically based fitness center that TriHealth serves, as well as our corporate health division, which provides employer-based services around health and wellness. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So again, we've been partners with IdeaScale for 3 years, and they were really the catalyst to our success in our Bright Ideas program that we're going to share with you today. A big shout out to Whitney. Thank you for rolling it out with us. You did a lot of work. We worked with a lot of technical folks like Christoph and Eric. I'm going to forget some names, and Jessica. And most recently with Josh and Lara, who have really helped us along. So thank you very much. So TriHealth is a very large healthcare system, and it's located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I moved to Cincinnati when I was young. I'm not going to tell you the age, but in 1974 is when I moved there. And that's where TriHealth is, and it's a great place to grow up and to raise your family. But I've got an audience question for you. So just shout out, what is one thing you know about Cincinnati, Ohio? What is it famous for? Skyline? 5 ways. The Bengals. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the things I thought of. So if you ever do visit Cincinnati, check out our ice cream, and our Montgomery and ribs are delicious. You can actually ship those to your house. Chili, the Bengals, they haven't won a game yet, but hopefully soon. About the same record as the Reds, because they weren't as good either. So so come and join us if you're ever in Cincinnati.
All right, so our hope and our goals for the next 25 minutes, we'll say, we're excited to share with you the story of our program, which is known as Bright Ideas. We're going to talk to you about the process, how it works for us, how we engage our team members and our leaders. We're going to share with you some of our wins, some of our successes, how we correlate the success of our program to improved metrics within our organization. And we're going to talk briefly about our hope for our future, but we're excited to learn from you as we begin to navigate that path. So TriHealth. TriHealth is a hospital system, a large hospital system in Cincinnati. TriHealth came together in 1997, so about 22 years ago, when 2 major hospitals in our area merged together. And those 2 systems had a very rich heritage and history. It includes Good Samaritan Hospital, which was founded in 1852 by Sisters of Charity. and our Bethesda hospitals, which included 2 campuses, Bethesda North and Bethesda Oak. Bethesda's were formed in the 1896 by the German Methodist deaconesses. And so many people still in our area, after 22 years, think that the name TriHealth came to be because of those 3 hospitals, and that is not true. The Tri represents the partnership between our hospitals, our physicians, and our communities to fulfill our mission, which is to improve the health status of the people we serve. And we share this with you because it is truly embedded and rooted in what we do at TriHealth every day, and very specifically with our Bright Ideas program, as you'll learn. Today, we are much more than when we started 22 years ago. We are now 6 hospital systems with 11 for now, major ambulatory sites. We have over 400 physicians who are employed TriHealth physicians, with another 400 that are partnered with our system. And we are the 4th largest employer in Cincinnati, with 12,000 team members, as we call them, and growing.
Yeah, so in 2015, 4 years ago, Mark Clement joined TriHealth as our new CEO and president. And one of his first priorities was to improve team member engagement. We were scoring very low, like in the 26th percentile. So that was a big thing he wanted to achieve. So he created the Innovation Center and staffed it with our team. And his big goal for the organization was to have every single team member, so we don't call ourselves employees, we call ourselves team members. We're all in it together. His goal was to have every single team member submit an idea, a simple idea that they can implement themselves, that would help quality, safety, service, could be on any topic, to implement it 1 per year. So it was a hefty goal, and so that's what we set out to do. So why did we do that? Or first of all, first thing we did was we had a little consulting firm come in called the Management House. And Stephanie Sherman came in and spoke to our leadership group, and she suggested that we use 2 different types of ideas. The first idea being a JDI, a just do it. So this would be where a team member thinks of the idea, they implement it quickly, we capture the win, they calculate the worth of it, pretty simple process. They also suggested a second type, which is called a DIG, a do it group. This would be an idea a team member comes up with, however they need a smaller group to help form the implementation plan and actually implement it over a 4-week period. So what we found over the past couple of years is that the majority of the ideas from 12,000 team members were actually JDIs. And the digs that we did receive were actually JDIs, or they were projects that were way out of scope of the Bright Ideas program. So now we just say Bright Ideas, but they're truly JDIs. So why are we doing this? Well, research shows that highly engaged team members will lead to a better experience for patients. So you've got happy team members that are very satisfied with their work. That leads to a really good experience for patients. That leads to better outcomes. So we started with the ideation piece. We had to teach 12,000 team members how to come up with an idea, which we've done. And it was a very engaging process for them to come up with an idea, to bring it to life, to implement it, and then to be recognized for it is very engaging. So we're getting that engagement piece. We're helping to improve the patient experience, and it's really showing with outcomes for patients. And that's truly what our mission is. So how are we doing? Like I said, when Mark came in, we were in the 26th percentile. And we launched several big initiatives to help with engagement. Bright Ideas was probably the biggest one. And you can see we went up to the 74th percentile. And this is with an outside company called Press Ganey, who actually survey our team members. And we had a 90% response rate on that survey. So these are pretty accurate. We kind of backpedaled a little bit lately, but whenever you have huge initiative like this, you get that innovation fatigue that you wrote that article about. And we're trying to streamline it and make it exciting again and going back to the why. But we're still seeing really good results. So I want to show you this video, and this is the video that we used to launch Bright Ideas with our 12,000 team members.
So, you have an idea. After all, you came to healthcare to help others. And your idea would help your colleagues, or patients, or make TriHealth better. But maybe you're worried that your idea is silly or not possible. Or maybe it will be crushed by questions, pummeled by process, and battered by bureaucracy. And if your idea survives all that, well, it probably won't be implemented anyways. That can make you feel disconnected, like you don't have much of an impact. But that's changing. TriHealth is embracing employees' bright ideas now, taking down the barriers that stand between employee ideas and actually making a difference. We're talking about any idea, even if it's just a small change, from anyone, in any position. Think the required process for paperwork in your area is redundant or wasteful? You can fix it. Think there's a clearer way of communicating with one another? Suggest improvements. Think a corporate policy is outdated and unnecessary? Let's make it better. These are just examples, but each TriHealth team member knows best how to improve their area. Find something that needs improvement, and you can fix it. Some ideas will be implemented right away, and others will be developed further with colleagues in do-it groups. At TriHealth, we have talented, dedicated staff who all offer different perspectives and insights into how we can be the best at what we do. Now is the time to help everyone's ideas rise to the top, because together, all of our small improvements add up to big changes. Changes that will put our core values into action every day, and make TriHealth a place where people want to work, where physicians want to practice, and where the community wants to come for the best healthcare. Let's all focus on continuous improvements, because together we triumph. What's your idea?
Thank you. All right, so the journey of a bright idea. So you saw at the end of that video, we started off asking the question, what's your bright idea? And initially, I think people were a bit stunned by that question and a bit panicked because often the response we would get is, I don't have any. I can't think of anything. And, maybe bright idea and even innovation, and ideating, those terms lead you to believe we were looking for something very original and groundbreaking and, something never thought of or pursued. And that wasn't really true of our program, and it still really isn't today yet. So sometimes instead of asking, what's your idea, we ask people very, directly, what is your problem? Right? And everybody can answer that. And so that's how we sometimes coach team members who are struggling to come up with an idea. Tell me about what's not working in your area. And that's how we engage with our team members to better understand where those opportunities for change and improvement are in their area. So a lot of the work that we do feels a bit therapeutic at times in that we're really digging in to understand what could be made better, what could make their day a little bit easier, what process could be tweaked just a little bit, and also how do you communicate more with one another, because oftentimes it's breakdowns in communication. So the journey of an idea starts with that coaching, identifying what's the problem, what's the opportunity, and let's get to a solution, which, embedded in that is the bright idea. So there's an approval process. Team members submit their ideas into our bright ideas system, as we call it. It's Idea Scale. And they wait for approval from both their leader, who reviews it first and gives the okay, and then secondly, from one of our 4 consultants to also properly review it and vet it and make sure it's aligned with TriHealth policies, procedures, regulations, and in line with our values. So they get the green light. Your idea is approved. Go make it happen. So every team member is expected to implement their idea on their own. And we encourage them, to own it mostly by yourself. You may need support from other areas, from your leader, from other, support systems within TriHealth, but we're looking for ideas that they can see through themselves, mostly by themselves as the idea owner. They return then to Bright Ideas to let us know how they implemented their idea. How's it going? And it's also, we use Idea Scale to capture outcomes, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then we celebrate. So any implemented idea is considered a win. And I'll show you in a moment with engagement strategies how we celebrate those completed ideas. So these are some of our favorite engagement strategies. The first one I want to dig into for just a few minutes is our Innovation Action Council. So this is a council. We now have 4. We used to have 9. We've consolidated these recently. Each one is made up of a team of peers including frontline team members as well as leaders who are responsible for really promoting and encouraging the Bright Ideas program among their particular region or business unit. And they have a number of very important roles. That council is facilitated by us as consultants, but they have a lot of decision-making ability. In addition to being cheerleaders, promoters, the go-tos of our program for their site or their unit, they are responsible for evaluating funding requests. We in Innovation Center and Bright Ideas have been very fortunate for the last 3 years to have a very generous budget for funding. And we do our best to spend that down. And believe it or not, it's difficult to do. But the Innovation Action Council is responsible for receiving requests for funding from team members that they submit when they need help funding their idea by way of purchasing equipment or supplies or services. And they decide to approve or not approve those funding opportunities. The Innovation Action Council is also responsible for reviewing all completed ideas, which is a big task. You'll see in a moment we have a pretty good implementation rate. And they handpick and award our Gold Shovel Ideation Awards. And the Gold Shovel, so now you've seen, we started with digs, hence the shovel. There are digs no more, but we're still going with the Gold Shovel. And so we award team members once a month or so. We surprise them at a team meeting. They're often caught off guard, and we thank them and recognize them for their awesome idea and the impact that it made. And this is incredibly rewarding. We give out about 100 or so per year. But for 12,000 team members, that's a pretty small number. We've recently implemented the Spotlight Recognition. This is an opportunity to recognize anyone for their great, bright idea. It can be picked out by us in the Innovation Center, by leaders, by other team members to recognize really cool, impactful, bright ideas. And I want to note that that was my bright idea. So from last year was that Spotlight Recognition. Lastly here, I want to mention tracking progress. I mean, you know, what you measure is impactful, and so our leaders and team members have a goal. As you've heard, every team member is expected. It's considered required. No one's going to lose their job over it, but it is required to submit one bright idea per year. And so we track that progress, and any time when our reports are published, which they are done so twice a month, team members can go on and see how they are doing, how their peers are doing. But more importantly, leaders are held accountable. Their leadership evaluation matrix includes a goal every year for Bright Ideas that they will have 85% of their team members with approved Bright Ideas, not just submitted, but approved. And that progress is posted. We break it down by business unit, so different regions of our hospital can see how they're doing compared to others. We break it down by specific leaders as well as their departments. And we push this, so we encourage our leaders to get on and look at this constantly throughout the year so no one's surprised at the end of the year. Real quickly, so ideas are submitted into Idea Scale. This is a snapshot of an example idea. We use a lot of custom questions to better understand how they intend to implement their idea and what kind of resources they're going to need, just to make sure before we approve it, it really is legit and something that they can work on. And once all ideas are approved by us, they move into an approved stage in the funnel, and it's technically a refinement stage. So this is maybe unique to how we do it, but we use that refinement stage as kind of a holding spot while they implement their idea. But when it's completed, they come back into the system and document here in some custom questions we have set up to let us know, once again, how they implemented it, how it's going, what feedback they're getting. And we also use this as a way to track the benefits, both tangible and intangible, which Susan's going to talk about.
So it's very important to capture outcomes for a couple of different reasons. One, it's very engaging for the team member to capture their own outcomes, and we verify the reasonableness of it. And it's also a good way for us to prove our return on investment, our ROI, so we can sustain our program going forward. So these are the tangible outcomes. So last year we had almost 12,000 ideas submitted. 10,000 of those ideas were actually approved by their leaders to be implemented. So it's about a 50% implementation rate, so about 5,000 of those ideas were actually truly implemented. We captured outcomes on those. The average net value of a bright idea is about $1,600 right now. So some much higher, and some, yes, it's a great accomplishment, and some a little bit less, or in the negative. So there's intangible benefits too. So it's okay if it's a negative net value. If you extrapolate that data to the program net value. That's $8.5 million. Now that's somewhat of a soft ROI because it is measured by idea owners, but there's a big portion of that ROI that is hard ROI that we can actually track to decrease man hours to do certain processes, supply costs that are less with certain ideas. So there's a big chunk of that's a hard ROI. So again, we actually coach team members on how to capture the value of their ideas. And it's a very simple formula. We teach them that you look at your benefits, so how much money does your idea save TriHealth? You subtract out the amount of costs that it took to implement your idea, and that gives you the net value of your idea. So let's talk about an example. Nicole Bobbitt is a team member at TriHealth in HR technology, and she was spending 6 hours a month to run reports, HR technology reports, and distribute them to different distribution lists. So she spent 2 hours going into business objects. She found out how to code this, and she programmed it so it was done automatically every month. So we worked with her, and she said, well, 6 hours I saved times 12 months. We just use a $35 an hour standard amount for labor. And so she said, wow, I saved the company $2,500 with this 2 hours worth of work. You subtract out the $70 in her labor costs, and her net value is $2,450. She feels very engaged, and she's recognized for that achievement. Again, engagement leading to better patient experience, which leads to better outcomes, which is our mission. So.
All right, so we categorize every idea, and by we I mean the consultants, and so these 5 categories here represent TriHealth strategic plans pillar goals. So each year our goals align with one of these 5 pillars. So we wanted to make sure that we understood how the bright ideas were supporting the strategic plan and which pillar they fell under. So we use tags with every idea. It's our discretion as consultants to decide where that idea best fits. There's no right or wrong. And so looking at the ideas we received last year, you can see how it's broken down. So the largest category here for our pillars was culture and people, meaning that we're creating an engaged workforce. And so the majority of the bright ideas supported that strategic plans pillar. Quality and safety is huge for hospital systems. It's probably one of the most important pillars if you asked our C-suite. And so we're happy to say that nearly 35% of bright ideas support that strategic goal. And lastly, service. So ensuring that our patients, our guests, the families of our patients are having an exceptional experience every time they step into a TriHealth facility. And we're seeing that 27% of bright ideas are supporting that goal. So that's how we categorize, but then we also ask the team members to help us understand what they believe the benefit of their idea to be. And so these are the categories we've used. What improvements do they feel like their idea provided? And they can choose more than one. But it's interesting to see then here, again, the largest category that team members are identifying their bright ideas to support is an improvement in team member engagement, followed by quality improvement. So as a hospital system, bright ideas impact is having the biggest impact on the team member engagement, not necessarily process improvement and quality and safety and changing how we do healthcare at a very technical level necessarily. It's helping team members feel more engaged in the work that they do. So pretty cool to see. Susan.
Yeah. So I'd like to share with you some examples, the correlation between highly engaged teams and outcomes. So these are specific team examples. So this is Carolyn, who's a manager of a very large ambulatory surgery team. Her team is highly engaged, has really been working on the Bright Ideas program. You can see her high participation rate. And she's had several outcomes improve. Specifically, what I want to share with you is the patient experience percentile rank went from the 22nd percentile up to the 56th percentile with all of these engagement strategies. Our inpatient psychiatric team, a big team at Good Samaritan Hospital, worked really hard at improving engagement, has participated a lot with Bright Ideas program, very engaging for them. And they've seen several outcomes improve, one being with decreased falls with injury, going from 18 to the next year down to 5, extremely important. And then Dee Murphy is our director of our safety department. She has a team highly engaged system-wide. You can see high Bright Ideas scores. One of their outcomes that has improved are the hospital-acquired infections. Went from 20.7 to 17.8 infections average per month, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot when you're talking about thousands and thousands of patients.
All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of go through these next quickly. We pulled out some example Gold Shovel Ideation Award winner ideas, and many of these are really focused on the patients and the experience. And so the awards tend to be focused that way, which is kind of cool to see. But what we really wanted to have a few minutes to talk about are a couple of our best practices or lessons learned. And so a repeated theme that you've heard from us is understanding the why behind why we do what we do and how it's tied to our mission. Specifically, engaged team members lead to better outcomes. And I remember when we were first introduced this concept when Mark Clement came in, he showed very specific data around poorly engaged team members in hospital systems making a direct correlation to a longer length of stay for patients and a higher mortality rate. And that's like hard, scary data, right? So if our team members like what they do and are engaged in the workplace, patients get out of the hospital quicker and less people die. I mean, that's pretty impactful. So everything that we do around Bright Ideas and difficult decisions we have to make, changes we make to the program, we always bring it back to the why of what we do, which is to engage our team members. Communication is key. I want to highlight that for a minute. We never stop promoting our program, and we're so lucky to have, I think, a pretty good sized team. There's 6 of us. We feel small, but we are mighty, and we never stop promoting the program. We use every communication method that we can. We do a lot of it directed at leaders, which we really feel is, and this, it's key to have their support. We never stop promoting the program, but where we're challenged, and we'd love feedback from you offline, is communicating out all the wonderful ideas that we're hearing about and how do they get shared across the system. That's one of our biggest barriers we experience with such a large employer size. But leadership support. So you heard us say our leaders are held accountable. They have an annual goal to reach, and it is part of their evaluation process. It's directly tied to their performance review and essentially their merit increase. And so we've seen very clearly that leaders who are engaged in their work, they get Bright Ideas, they hit 100% or greater because they understand its importance and their team members are engaged as a result. As opposed to some teams whose leaders are just struggling to get by, and Bright Ideas is not a priority, and we get that. And we see, unfortunately, lower team member engagement scores in those areas. Bright Ideas is hard to penetrate, that group with, and they have a lot of struggles in their areas. So anything you can do to get the leader support and their buy-in is really key, we feel, for our program. And lastly, our future.
Yeah, so where do we go from here? Well, with Bright Ideas, our first phase was to have every team member just submit an idea. And then our second phase was we want you to not only submit an idea, but we want at least one approved by your manager. And our third phase was, okay, this year we want you to submit it, you want it approved, and we want you to actually implement one of your ideas. So that's kind of where we are right now. Eventually, we'd like this to be embedded in our culture, have it hardwired, ingrained, in what you do every single day. So constantly looking for ways to improve quality, safety, it's utmost on your mind, and being recognized for that, part of our wins. So we feel like that's going quite well. So where do we go from here? Well, we're working on focused ideation campaigns, and I like the term challenge. I think maybe we might use that, have challenges around specific topics. So not ideate, so with Bright Ideas, it's any topic that you want to implement an idea on. With focused ideation, might be, how do we decrease falls in the ED? Or how do we improve the registration process? So you have hundreds of team members submitting ideas. It's a very engaging process, maybe using some of the crowdsourcing activities. And then 1 or 2 bubble up to the top, so you just implement 1 or 2, but everybody's engaged. So it meets our goal of increasing engagement, just a different way to do it. We would love to build an innovation hub or a design center, maybe a hospital of the future, and have team members who have great ideas come in and test those ideas before rolling those out system-wide or to their department. Again, we'd love to partner with third-party vendors, for example, maybe with Uber, to have Uber take our patients who can't make it to their doctor's appointments. So innovative ideas like that. So we'd love to talk with any of you during break or during the tours tomorrow if you have ideas and advice on how what our next steps should be. So.
That's it. Shout out to